Yeah. Howdy. So let's begin with a short 2-minute lessons learned video. I'm Vasant Srinivasan, and I'm the entrepreneurial lead.
I'm Adam Steele, the mentor.
Howdy, I'm Robin Murphy, the principal investigator.
We are Team 273, Socially Adept Avatars. We have developed Siri for faces. In the same way Siri made voice recognition popular, we can do autonomous head and eye movements in real time for faces on both robots and avatars. We thought that our technology is a game changer in 6 customer segments, but after 100 interviews, we learned otherwise.
I thought game animators could use my technology to automate character animation in same way they currently automate character effects like hair and clothing.
But we discovered game animators do not want a style imposed on them, and they want creative control over facial animation. And more interviews led us to invalidate all our initial customer segment hypothesis. But every time we talked to a virtual agent vendor, the first thing out of their mouth was not about how they needed a better avatar like we thought, but surprisingly, their biggest needs were always related to problems and barriers that their customers were facing.
This was the beginning of a real aha moment. The clue, the idea that the real pain points might lie more broadly in customer support.
So we pivoted. Rather than selling to a virtual agent vendor, we will become a virtual agent vendor and create our own solution. For example, we learned that customer support directors' top problem is to reduce call volumes, since high call volume leads to high operational complexity and thus higher costs. Even the support call itself is expensive at $6 per call, and they are aware that better automated solutions can help them. Our decision is a no-go right now, but we're not done yet. We have validated most of the business model. However, we need to continue customer development to identify specific first application within customer support. Thank you. So we are Team 273, Socially Adept Avatars, and we did 100 customer interviews in the last 7 years. And so after this discovery process, we repositioned ourselves as intelligent virtual customer service agents. And we've come a long way since Keith last told us. Sit down, Vasant. You do not have enough interviews to have learned anything. Yeah.
So our idea for Siri for Faces came from our work in robotics, where we're looking at making robots more like WALL-E. That could be really great for things like social robots like your grandmother's helper robots or those creepy telepresence robots, making them less creepy. But if you can make it work for a robot, you can probably make it for social avatars. So that could mean we could revolutionize the online tutoring, make lots of money with online, speeding up online gaming and programming there, and also eliminate those annoying, and I do mean annoying, chatbots and virtual assistant agents. Well, I'll let Vasant tell you what we found were the real unmet needs. Yeah, so we came to Atlanta, right, and we had this technology which was pretty great, right? At least we thought so. And we thought that there was a lot of demand for this technology. And we were pretty wedded to it. So you can see that in our value propositions, and it even colored our customer segments. And so we went out of the building, right, and we spoke to our first customer segment, right, social robot vendors. I mean, come on, who does not want a WALL-E to interact with or a Siri-like face, right? But we hit a brick wall right there, right? And this was in an elder care scenario application, where we found out that the target customer for these companies, right, is actually not the elderly, but their children, right, the caregiver. And for them, a social interaction is really not important. And we just slammed into a wall. And we continued on with interviews, and about 50 interviews in, right, we hit pretty much 3 more brick walls, right? So we started out with 4 customer segments, and we kind of slammed right there.
And so we've been talking to virtual agent vendors, right? And we pretty much talked to all the top 10 virtual agent vendors that are out there, right? And we were listening to the conversations. And when they started actually speaking, right, it was not so much as about having great avatars, right? Great, avatars that are socially acceptable or, autonomous, all those banned words, right? But it was more about their customers, the pain points, their needs were the pain points of their customers, the barriers. And so this was kind of like a hint towards an aha moment, right? Where we kind of felt that we kind of observed with over a trend that customer service, right? Customer service, customer support may be where the real pain points lie, right? And so we started to dig in deeper into this area. And so we made a pivot, right? We said that we will not sell virtual agent vendors, but we will become, right, a virtual agent vendor. And what does this mean, right? In terms of becoming a virtual agent vendor, right? We have all this great technology, right? We can do avatars, we're good at it, right? But becoming a vendor involves some additional technology component, right? Dialogue processing and a lot of back office database management. And so we needed to find either a partner, right, who has these capabilities, or actually get some kind of a license API arrangement, right, so that or do some in-house development to get this whole package together. And that example there, Alex, right, is this entire package, and she's a customer service agent on United Airlines. If you ever book a ticket, you then talk to her. Right, and so we kind of dug deeper into this value proposition, right? I mean, into the business model canvas, finding out what are the value propositions, right? What is the ecosystem, so on and so forth. And we saw that this market opportunity, right, was about $1 billion. So the web customer service today, right, is about $1 billion, out of which $300 million is for customer service by virtual assistants alone, right? And out of which you have $275 million for customer service virtual assistants with avatars, with talking heads. And so we dug in pretty deep, and we identified all the people in the ecosystem. And pretty much the first few interviews we discovered that the decision makers are the customer support directors, right? They are pretty senior people, vice presidents, and we spoke to Dan Grant at Home Depot, right? His primary concern was to reduce the number of phone calls, right? And also reduce cost. Cost was a big factor, right? They also wanted 24-hour customer support, and I'll get into the motivations of that a little later. We also met in the pipeline customer support managers who were actually influencers. So these people were familiar with the technology, made recommendations to these people higher up, like used the technology, evaluated it, things like that. And then we had customer support representatives who were on the other side of the phone call or on the other side of the web chat, talking to this actual user or consumer. Right? And finally, we had people like you and me, right, who were the consumers, who actually requested for help. And we spoke to quite a lot of these people to see if they would use right, a virtual assistant kind of solution. And so I wanted to just talk about one important value proposition that came out of our customer discovery that is actually not being addressed by any of the companies out there right now. And this is actually to do with mismatched culture between customer support agents and users, which lead to poor experiences. And we think this is actually a small dive into a larger ecosystem of demographics. But what we saw was that this is actually prevalent everywhere. Right? If you had a customer service support agent, even in the US, people perceived that because of popular media, they were looking at abroad or elsewhere, and this colored the experience. Right? They were not able to get to the solution because either they couldn't understand what is being said, right? Or there were cultural barriers, right? So on and so forth. We also had that the existing practice, right? We spoke to business processing outsourcing companies, the companies which provide back office support to all these big companies in the US. And they said that the way they solve this pain point is just to train people. There's no other solution that is existing out there, right? And we dug deeper and we found that there may be other value propositions, right? Multilingual support, right? As well as geographic spread. And what I mean by that is you have people traveling across time zones. So suppose you're in the US, you go to Europe, you want customer support, let's say, back in the US at 2 o'clock in Europe, you need to have that, right? And that may not be possible if you have a day-to-day kind of schedule in the US. And so, yeah.
Thanks, Hassan. So before I talk about this slide, I too was a previous entrepreneurial lead like Troy, and I was in the second cohort in Stanford. And so my first surprise coming here was to see the teaching team was all these scary Steve Blank clones. It was completely obvious to me right away, and Julie, I particularly apologize to you. But I mean that I was really hoping for that when I came in, actually, and I was really happy to see that. And so I mean that as a compliment. I hope you know that. But also, you know, it was obvious you weren't clones. I got so much more than I got last time, such as asking why, even more than I was before. And that was really valuable for our team. And so, you know, when we were here, I started being amazed again about how all these people that we were talking to would just spill the beans to you. You know, you're coming in under the radar, putting a nice smile on your face, looking innocent and everything. And so we went through this process like Vasant talked about, right? And so we get to the channel diagram and kind of the ecosystem. And when we got to this point, I looked at these boxes and I was like, oh man, two of our major boxes are consisting of almost all people that are international, right? It's the BPOs, which are all in India and that area. Virtual agent vendors are actually almost all in Europe, right? And so I was just like, man, how are we going to get 100 interviews, you know, with all these people that are on opposite time zones and everything, right? And so, but I'm happy to say we made it happen, right? And you know, I remember for waking up, you know, we had to schedule something at about 5 a.m. in the morning for an afternoon call, you know, for a casual afternoon call with them, and we would do a video Skype normally. And you know, I'm not a morning person, so I consider staying up all night, you know, to maybe just go for it. But I'd end up setting my alarm for about 4:58. You know, have 1 minute just to kind of put on a collared shirt, and no time for pants, and go to the computer, right? And then 1 minute, turn on Skype, okay, slap myself awake, and begin the call, right? And so I remember one call in particular was with a Polish company, and they're called Fido Intelligence. And so I was expecting this call with just the you know, like lead engineer or CTO, and it starts, there's two guys there, and it's the CEO and the CTO, so I'm like, okay, that's awesome, but then, you know, they introduce themselves, and they pick up the computer and proceed around the room and show me all 15 people in their company, the entire executive team, lead of this, head of that, and I'm just, my eyes are open. I was like, oh my God, did I accidentally say, you know, I'm with NSF, you know, I have $1 million grant for you, you know, I was got a little scared, but the real surprise was that these European companies and these people there and these people in India, they actually provided the most insight, had the most, they spilled the most beans, if I can put it any other way. And we had 90+ minute calls with all of them, and filling out some of the details of these diagrams. We're going to go to the next one. You know, some of the particulars about how much they pay for this and that, what they care about, and some of all these things that Vasant talks about. It just came right out, and it was amazing.
Yeah, so right now, based on the information we are a no-go, but we are not stopping yet, right? We will continue the customer development process to actually you know, finalize a minimal, you know, valuable application, right? A product application or a first application, right? Especially in this segment. And what we're seeing is that there is actually an imbalance between what is there in the back office development, right? For technology vis-a-vis what we have to do for Avatar. And we're looking for a first application that kind of evens it out. And once we find that, we will definitely be a good decision. Thank you.
That entire video was done last night, wasn't it?
Yep, 5 a.m.
Can you believe that? How late were you up doing that?
5 a.m.
5 a.m.
Yeah.
That was really good. That was a great video. By the way, you have so congratulations. By the way, great, fantastic presentation. And you
Did you have your pants on?
That was a lot of fun to watch you guys present that story and the way you did it. And when you came here, you were all about gaming. You were all about video games. And you've gone, not only do you change the market, you change your product too. And it's just extraordinary pivot. I'm just so proud of you guys. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, nothing to add. Well done.
Special thanks to Adam for having the courage to do the laptop.
Yeah.
Repeat the thunder.
I'll do it again. What, he was the EL?
Is he yelling?
Yeah.